Before we jump in, I want to tell you why I wanted today's guest on the show. Ellie McMakin has this incredible ability to look at a business and spot the thing that's keeping someone stuck almost immediately. But what I love most is that she doesn't just hand people advice and send them on their way. She helps them build businesses that actually support the life they're trying to live. In this conversation, we talk about passive income, but probably not in the way you're expecting. This isn't about creating another course or chasing another revenue stream. It's about looking at what you've already built differently and making a few intentional changes that could completely change the way your business works for you. If you've ever felt like success has come at the expense of your peace, I think you're going to love this conversation. Here's my chat with Ellie.
Hey, come on in. Leave the world out there. The Chill Space Podcast. The Chill Space Podcast. Press play.
I legitimately could not be more excited right now. I feel like it's Christmas morning in my house. I have literally a vision board dream person joining me on the show today. I'm so excited. My sweet dear friend Ellie is here. Ellie, welcome to the show.
This is Christmas morning for me times infinity. So I'm just so grateful you are having me here. Thanks for bringing me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like basically since the first time we ever met each other, we basically fell in love and
Yes.
have been mutually obsessed with each other ever since. And it's been a little while since we've gotten to connect. So I'm just so
Yeah.
grateful to be able to share this space with you. Ellie and I have experience working together as part of a team, but also we've just watched each other on our own individual journeys of growth. And especially over the last little while, I think some big unlocks. And I'm really excited for the audience listening today to hear from you. You are such a wealth of knowledge in business, but also in life. And I think where I resonate most with you is helping people to kind of just see themselves differently and see business differently and not always having to follow
Yes.
kind of the status quo. So I'm really excited for the conversation today.
I am too. I am too. It's very rare that I get to be on a podcast with someone that I've seen almost like from the ground floor of this operation. I mean, literally, I remember when the podcast was launched and immediately going and following and liking everything. And so, like, to be able to see you on this journey of the last few too has been really fun for me because it's seeing what you're bringing to the table for these entrepreneurs and what they're currently experiencing, what you and I experience together. I don't want to say it's the opposite, but it probably couldn't be more different from where we are today, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly agree more. I just can't wait to see where this conversation goes. And where I want to kind of start us with is just a nod to the fact that you have literally worked with hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many business owners.
Too many. Just
So
kidding.
many, but really with helping them unlock so much power in their businesses and especially around passive income, adding additional revenue into their businesses that they didn't even realize was possible for themselves. And before we kind of dive into the
Yeah.
how of all of that, I would love to know from you when you think about that or you hear me say that about you, what lights you up around doing that work?
You know, it's so funny that you say that because this came from a deep place of healing for me. This is the result of a lot of inner work. And I will say if life didn't throw me a few curveballs, I certainly would not be lit up. In fact, I remember distinctly having a conversation with you. Jeanette is like my comfort person. I remember there were so many times in my business where I was like, this is what's happening. Jeanette, I need to tell you everything. And you know, you've seen me on the ground floor of truly what hustling was. And I really fully felt that. It was something that you couldn't convince me and you couldn't pry me away from the concept of the 10-foot pole because there was enough evidence for me to believe it to be true. It was like,
Right.
and you hear all the time people being like, you know, I'm only getting into these habits because there's something that I'm getting back. And to me, what I was getting back from hustling was this proof that that was the only way that you could do that. And so when I think about it now and thinking about helping people unlock, hey, did you know you could like make this one tweak and suddenly you're making 100K more a year than you thought you would? Like to me, I get really giddy inside because it's like kind of revisiting that part of me that healed where I was just like, hey, all of these people that you see online that are living that easy life, I can prove to you that that's real and I can show you how you can do that easily. And so when you ask me, what lights me up, it's the deep satisfaction of knowing that it hasn't always been that way and the contrast that comes for me with that. And I don't know if your experience was anything similar, but I know there was a time where your work life looked very different too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, yes. And I think I'm still figuring that out. Like it's a constant journey of a path for me towards more alignment. But I think that's what's so interesting about, what you're doing and the position that you're coming from to try to help people is out of lived experience and to be able to show them that I think I would say a better way. Maybe
Yeah,
some would just say a different way is
right.
possible. But yes, I mean, I for sure have also come a long way in being able to, I guess, not make work my entire identity.
Or personality. Like you weren't like me where you were making it your whole personality, but like to me, I was like, that's my personality. Like work is my life. So I get you.
Yeah. So, like, having that realization too from yourself of like, okay, work is everything. Actually, I see proof in the hustle. Maybe that's money coming in or opportunities that maybe I didn't think were possible before. What sort of started to unlock for you to be able to know that there was a different way that eventually you would be able to show other people?
Yeah, and I'd say that different way came a lot earlier than I was willing to recognize. You know how like the universe will give you signals for something and it'll be practically hitting you over the head. Like, hey, pay attention. And I'm
Mhm.
not paying attention
Like,
the entire
no.
time. But I have to be talked to very directly from the universe. It probably shakes its head at me all the time. The first inkling that I got of this was when my brother passed away and I had this business that was purely active. It was just like, wow, I truly can't step away if I want to, and that's
Mhm.
unfortunate for me. It came from the place of, like, very much coming to terms with the fact that we're all gonna have these human experiences independently of I might have had a goal that year to make $500,000, but
Mhm.
that did not matter when life happened, and so it was kind of this realization that, like, life would always outweigh the hustle in some way, and I don't know if that
Mhm.
makes any sense, but to me in my brain, I'm like, yeah, like, life is going to happen, and it's crazy for me not to see my business in a new way and be prepared in that way. And so it started
Mhm.
as like, I kind of branded that as like, oh, you need to be prepared. But then slowly, as kind of the tides turned and shifted, and we saw businesses need to post more. It's like everything suddenly became a burden overnight for
Yeah.
business owners. I was just like, well, why do things have to be the status quo active wise?
I think that's really interesting, and I kind of pulled 2 things out of there. I was like, 1, the aspect that life is going to happen, and I think this is something that we overlook until something happens,
Right.
right? We kind of brush it off or we make excuses for a lack of presence in our own life until something happens that we can't ignore and we have to be present for, we have to pull ourselves away from our businesses. That was one aspect of it, but then the second aspect of it is, I think the sheer amount of change and, like, demands on a
Yeah.
business owner and the amount of things that we have to do, and I feel like that kind of only continues to grow because at the
Right.
speed of things changing, the number of things we have to be aware of for
It's
businesses
insane.
is
Yeah.
crazy, right? So there's these 2 aspects here that are both really overwhelming also, right? For, like, business
Insane.
to
Yeah.
actually think about. So, what do you think stops people from thinking about including life as part of a business plan?
I don't think that when you're in a state of survival, I don't think you could ever force yourself to be open to doing anything differently other
Mhm,
than what is. And so, I never fault someone who comes to me who's like insanely overworked, just like can't. Like if I'm being real, I don't think any of us start a business to think that we're doing it the wrong way. We do everything we can to do it to the best of our ability. You know, for every person that comes to me in a tough spot, there's also someone who's like, but this is how it's always been. And I don't
Mhm.
know if I want to change that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so I think I would say it's probably both. It's like circumstantial, probably also a little bit of ego too.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like we're so attached to what we're building, what we're creating for
Yeah.
ourselves. And because when you're doing that too, especially before and if you
Right.
ever do build out team, it's like it is all you, right? So of
Yeah.
course there is this aspect that okay, well, I'm doing it all. I'm not gonna separate myself from any
Right.
of this, right? So as people start like exploring or maybe something happens, maybe something awful happens in life, they have to reevaluate their priorities, reevaluate how we're doing business. What do you think are some of like the first areas that people should
Yeah.
be thinking about and exploring?
Yeah, and this is ironically, this one step that I feel like people should be doing is often the step that no one thinks about, even if they're 10 steps down the road.
Mm,
And I always feel like in the depths of my soul that everything starts and stops with the offer itself. A lot of people will jump to, well, it's about the price. If it's a monetary goal, I'm jumping to the price. Or like
mhm.
if it's about time, what's a free thing that I could do? It's like
Right.
kind of almost like I don't want to say backwards way of thinking, but it's like they leap lily pad and leapfrog over step one because they're eager to get going. Not even realizing that if you don't reevaluate and look at your offers, you're kind of not going to get anywhere. And I'll give an example. I had a
Mhm.
photographer who came to me who, was dead set super reliant on 50 weddings a year and probably 20 photo sessions a year. And I'd say this example applies to anyone that's a service professional, largely. A lot of the people that come to me are service professionals, but like I would say that everything started and stopped with her. She was terrified, and her grandma was getting into hospice. And she's like, I don't even have time to be with grandma. And I was like, have you
Mhm.
ever stopped to think that you are sitting on a wealth of assets with your photo galleries? Your photo galleries are just sitting there. They're not making you any extra money, but that is something you can leverage. That is a tool that you can leverage. And within a month, she was able to completely dial down and dial back all of her work so she could take 4 months off with her grandparents simply just by charging differently than what she was used to. I don't think in the photo industry, a gallery is something people typically would do, but
Right.
because she was making the money from there, she no longer had to take every job that came her way. And thankfully she was able to be with her grandmother when she passed. So it was a big deal and it meant everything.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting about that is I feel like most business owners, when they start to think about passive income or needing to generate this second or third or whatever stream of
Right.
revenue, they think about something they haven't done yet.
Yes.
Right? And what you've pointed out there is there was something that was already being done, but just
Yeah.
needed to be looked at differently in order to rework that offer
Right.
to start bringing in revenue. I think that's something I want to dive into a little bit too.
Yeah.
That automatic response of, okay, well, now I need to add something else. And I think this is a reason a lot of
Right.
people then are like, well, then I'm just not going to do it because I can't create more
Right.
work for myself. Right. So,
Facts.
how would people start kind of looking at what they already have and looking at it from a different lens to be like, I could
Yeah.
rework this to bring in passive revenue?
You know me well enough to know that there was a period in time where I would not have given this answer if you would have strangled it out of me. And I always hate the term mindset because I feel like sometimes it can be a touch dismissive for like what is required. It's like, oh, just
Mm.
fix your mindset and stuff. But the first thing that someone would need to do is they would need to put themselves in a situation to where they weren't surviving.
Mhm.
Realistically, there is nothing that you can do when someone is at the end of their rope. There's no way you can crack open the vault of survival. And I know that that's a complicated and touchy answer for a lot of people, but I would say that first, take care of anything that is forcing you in this survival mode. Carve out
Mhm.
just a little bit of time for yourself to maybe say, is there a way I can do it differently? And that's all you need to start with is just Is there a way that we can do it differently? I think we get so baked into what we see within the industry that we forget that it's possible that we created this thing for ourselves to serve what we need, like
Mhm.
completely. And so it's like, oh, well, nope, I have to charge this for, 1 hour call, and I have to charge this because that is what people do. And it's just like,
Right.
no, you don't have to.
I mean, that's so relatable in so many facets for me because I feel like even in my own journey of building my agency, a lot of figuring out what works there has been trying to emulate what other people have done. And it's
Yeah,
like in practice, that doesn't always work for you for a lot of different reasons, right? Whether it's lifestyle or the people that you're learning from are in a different country, even, and like
right,
the laws are different and the taxes are different. Like, there's all these things to consider when, we're
right.
looking to other people on how to do things, right? And so trying to kind of navigate that and figure out the right way. Something that I'm stuck on from what you were talking about is
Yeah,
that like survival mode.
yes,
And I think that it's particularly hard, and even someone listening to this, like, let's say that that's where they find themselves and they're
right,
starting to think, how nice would it be to have passive income?" Or like,
right,
"This would be so great if things were a little bit easier," but they can't see the path forward from that
right,
point. I know you started to talk about it a little bit there, but just, like, looking at things differently, but maybe even more actionable of, like, how to do that, right?
right,
Someone's like, "Okay, I am stuck in a loop. I'm surviving in my business. I am not
right.
thriving. Okay, I wanna look at things differently, but, like, how do I even start?"
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say that there's kind of a dual layer to this whole offer suite thing because as much as, we want to be in a position where we're feeling great, like you said, sometimes like things need to change now. We're not in the ideal headspace. What do we do? And usually in that case, the best indicator of where I like to go, and I get this largely from my father, is like very much like a service oriented headspace where it's like, okay, I might not be able to advocate for myself in the way I want, but I know I care deeply about my clients
Mm,
and I'm going to really pull back the curtain on every single interaction that I had and what is something that I can do to serve them that they've been asking for and how can I apply it in a different format than I have been. And I'll
yeah.
give you an example. There is a client of mine who really 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 loved calls. Like she just wanted like everything was a call. She's like if I could get on a call with you 2 times a day like I would. And I was struggling because like I one, introverted as hell, anxious as hell. Like I will gladly get on a call with anyone, but dear God, like my introverted heart is just like panicking, thinking about like multiple calls a day with one client and then adding on all the other clients and stuff.
Yeah.
And one idea that I had was like, okay, she really wants care. Like at the root of it, she wants attention and care. How can I do that? And what I ultimately decided on was I created a bank of assets for myself of voice memos that I could chime in where I took 1 day a month and I was like, what are all these like resources that I could provide to her that could really razzle dazzle her and give her the most.
Mhm.
And so I created this bank of voice memos where it's like, hey, I found this article that really made me think of you. And like, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And so I created that bank and then I had it scheduled to go out in Slack twice a day, every day. I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking about you. And she was like, those voice memos are such a big deal for me. Is there any
Mhm.
way you would sell me something like that? And I was like, well, gosh, sure. And that was a real unlock for me because that takes the core of it is care, thinking about what they want, but then thinking about a way I could do the same thing, but maybe in a different format. And so that was a very long-winded answer, but the answer to that question would be if you can't do it for yourself, if you can't get yourself
Mhm.
out of survival mode, what is something that could surprise and delight your customer in a format that you're not used to?
Yeah, I love that, and I think that that's a really good tip because I think where we get so stuck and so obsessive is, like, about ourselves, right?
Yeah,
And it's like we're stuck, we're in survival, and it's very hard to see the path forward, so maybe shifting the mindset away from,
right.
like, what do I need to do to change things for myself? Maybe it's more, what can I change for other people? And sometimes maybe
Yes.
pulling that out, I can see how that could like reignite some energy and a spark too, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think of you, literally the most thoughtful person. You are always thinking of your clients. And so I feel like something like that would be natural for a lot of people in your audience because if they're any extension of you, which I know they are, you probably all are people that like at the root of this get deep satisfaction from loving on your people.
Right. And sometimes I'm like, I need to think about them a little bit less. You know?
I could see that for you.
They
You
come
love
up
them
in my
so deeply.
dreams, like, I dream about them. I'm like, "Can I even sleep without thinking about you guys?"
Can I not lay awake at 2 a.m. thinking about my client?
Anything else, right? I mean, but I think that is very relatable for a lot of business owners. You said this already, like, we kind of try to create things to help people with things that we also need help with, and
Yes.
it's, like, comes from such a place of service and wanting to do good for other people, and,
Right.
yeah, there's a little bit of self-servingness in that, of course, like, I don't think any humans do anything without some level of
Right.
self-serving. I think we're wired and built that way. It's impossible to be 100% like
Yes.
altruistic for other people, right?
Completely
However,
agree.
like we even if it does something for us, we do get motivated to help other people, even if it's something that we're struggling with. And I feel
Right.
like that's even like the gist of this podcast is like this is all the stuff that I struggle with, but I want to have these conversations to help other people figure out,
Right.
like you're saying, different ways forward, different ways of looking at it and like finding our way to continue towards what we're working
Right.
towards. Something that I'm really curious about as well. So, like, you get to take a look into tons of different businesses. I'm wondering if there are like patterns that come up that you see really
Yes.
often where it's like, okay, either patterns and opportunities, patterns and things that people aren't seeing. Like, what's some of the stuff
Right.
that you start noticing?
Yeah, really good question. And it's funny that you asked that because that was literally like top of my mind for talking about next, which I like to call this the last ditch YOLO, which is like a lot of people in the hasteful pursuit of wanting passive income will just and I mean this with all the love in the world. I know there's going to be a few listeners that like this is probably you, and I mean this like in the most loving way. Like, dear God, let's put the templates to rest for a hot sec. I know that when it comes to passive income, I know there's few predominant things that we all tend to think about with that. However, what tends to happen is we start thinking almost robotically. I want
Mhm.
passive income. What is passive income? Templates, put it in offer suite, and it doesn't breathe any life into the current ecosystem you've created. It just creates a dead weight anchor. And it's like, no one asked for this. You did this obviously to solve a problem, which is very valid and super relatable and very legitimate. However, it's doing nothing for you. And because of that, you're creating more decision fatigue for your customer than you're adding to their overall journey. And so that would be the biggest thing is and I say this a lot in my content, but and maybe I say it a little too mean, which is just like, don't just put whatever you want in there.
Mm.
Ask some questions. Ask your audience, what they're really excited about when they work with you, what they want more of, and use that to create something passive, like I said, in a different container. So let's put the templates to rest. Let's shift them out a little bit. And of course there's situations where templates are necessary, but most of the time they're kind of just dead weight in there. So I would say that's the biggest one.
Yeah, I find that interesting too, because I would imagine one that automatic jump to templates, I can't see how that can be that profitable unless
Right.
it's at a massive scale, right? So
Yes.
then it's like you're just creating more work for something that maybe brings you in a little bit of extra profit, but it's not going to be
Right.
much. And so that's not the life-changing thing that you're looking for. Right?
Right.
It's like we're looking for something that's different, that's creative, that you're saying, like, that your
Yeah.
clients are maybe asking you for repeatedly, or if they're not asking you, then ask them, right?
Right.
And, like, see what people
Exactly.
actually want. Would you also go so far as to ask them, hey, would you buy this and like, how much would you pay for it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I love that you thought of that, and I think this speaks a lot to your brilliance because I think you are one of the people that comes to my mind as someone who is very aware of your audience, very thoughtful, always asking questions, always just approaching from a place of curiosity. And would you say that, like, in your experience when you're thinking of your audience, would you say curiosity is the right word for it, or do you have kind of a different, like, thought process when you're engaging with your clients?
Think it's definitely largely curiosity, partially because half of the time when I'm creating stuff, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this could be fun. I wonder if anyone would like.
Yeah.
And so there is that element of curiosity, but then there's also just think I know very deeply that anything anyone buys, anyone spends that they spend their money on is a purchase that's rooted in their own journey, their own
Right.
emotion, whether it's their pain or their progress, but it's for them. It's not
Right.
about me, right? So even if I'm just like creating general content, I try really hard not to make it so much about me. So like the questions that I ask people is really to understand them
Yeah.
better, knowing that at the end of the day, if they're going to listen to this show, they're going to do branding and marketing work with me, or they're going to come
Yeah.
to a retreat, it's gonna be about them, not really about me, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's a curiosity. I think there's also just a knowing how people purchase, the
Right.
psychology of buying and all of that too, that I do think about a lot. But yeah, I'm always ask. I don't think I run anything without asking
Yeah.
people they want.
And I think that's why you're so successful largely, and amongst other talents that you have because you're so gifted not only as someone who holds space for your audience and for guests, but it's so evident that you do that. And I can tell for everyone listening, when you look at everything Jeanette does, you can tell it's rooted in intention. And I
Mm,
think that when we think of our offer suite, we'll go as so far as to think about the intention of what we want to achieve as a result of offering that thing. Where is that level of intentionality when it comes to the customer? I'll go as far as to say this. You can tell a creator who asks their audience questions and the ones that don't. And it is
mm.
clear as day. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like it's so obvious.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm also curious if you see a difference then in like people who are creating offers for passive income that is kind of clearly just to create passive income
Mhm.
or versus to create some form of an impact or to help people. Do you see a
Yeah.
clear difference in those and like the success of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say one of the indicators that's the telltale sign to me is in how they present that passive offer. A lot of time is when the passive offer is just kind of either slapped on a stand store, if you want it, take it kind of thing, versus, hey, I have this thing that I've created with you in mind, and almost an extension of the existing offer suite. It's like your offers are like the crown jewels and everything is gilded around those things, but the passive offer is like, hey, while you're in my ecosystem, I thought of you. Do you want
Right.
this? Like, I would love for you to have this. Like, honestly, I think this will change your life. I know what you're thinking right now. And so it's all rooted in the presentation. It's the very big difference between buy this thing or like, hey, I was thinking about your journey and I think this would really add value to you. So the way it's presented, I think is a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, and how would you also approach priming your audience to be sold to? I
Oh,
feel like when you're creating community, you're trying to
hmm,
grow an audience online, ultimately, you're
yeah.
probably gonna try to sell to them at some point, right?
Yeah.
I know for some people that feels really icky and weird, but how would you go about being
Yeah.
authentic, being in intention, but also, like, you're gonna sell to people. So,
Yeah.
how do we navigate that?
Oh my gosh. How do you prime your audience for the sale? And I think there's two frames of thought I have in response to that because there's the one and I can tend to reduce things down in an overly simplistic way and I realize this might be one of them. One of those things is you don't have to
Mm.
prime people. It's in the repetition. We're almost animals. I mean, I can't tell you. I think I bought 4 things last week, all that I wasn't even really that interested in purely because I saw it probably 27 times. And you probably have experienced this too in the ad space with your ad background, where it's just like it's the duality of knowing that you almost don't have to if you have enough repetition, while also understanding, okay, these are very human, real interactions. And I recognize that's not everything, but there can be solace in that fact to where, hey, like if I'm able to resonate this message often enough, I don't have to do cartwheels to have to figure out how I word things perfectly. And then I think the other aspect of that answer would probably stem in the fact of using language a lot like you as you're
Mm.
speaking in your content and saying like, I realize that you might be feeling this way, or this might be something that you feel. And I feel like the power of the word you, it's just that ability for them to feel captured in that moment. And obviously there's a million different ways to answer that question. But if I were to say top two, that would probably be it for me right now.
Building on that too, how important is being authentic slash being yourself in
Yeah.
that aspect of priming people or like building
Yeah.
community? How much does that affect someone's success? And let's just use passive income generation as the
Right.
marker of success for this conversation.
Right. I might come in with a hot take on this, and it might not be the answer that anyone wants to hear. Do I feel like authenticity is the benchmark of success? No. I've worked with enough people who are horrendously unauthentic and unrelatable and make a boatload of money.
Right.
However, knowing the audience that we have here, knowing how everyone is building things just from a root of intentionality and really I truly deeply believe that everyone listening to this podcast is someone that has a purpose and feels like they have a soul that's on fire for what they do. And so while I'll say it's not a prerequisite to success, I feel like the level of authenticity is going to impact the quality of what you bring in. You can still
Right.
probably bring in a lot. It'll probably more geared towards the benchmark of how happy you are with the clients that inquire with you more than anything. But
Yes.
I want to know what you think.
I agree. I agree completely. I mean, I think it's obvious that you don't have to be authentic to make money, right? Like I
Right.
think that we see it all the time. There's tons of people who are majorly successful
Right.
and bringing in tons of passive revenue income, and there's not an authentic thing about them, right? Like it's not
Right.
necessary. And we see that a lot in the coaching industry and stuff too, right? That's a huge one that we can get into as well. But it's not necessary. What I've noticed in my own journey is basically exactly what you're saying, but the more that I show up as I want to, and I feel like what's authentic to me is literally different every single day, and
Yeah.
so the more I kind of follow that, but just, like, be honest, I guess, about where I'm at, what I'm doing, how I feel, and who I am in all these
Yeah.
different moments, I do find then the people that are around me are much more aligned, right? And they agree with me. They're interested in the things that I have to say, and then at the same time, you're also building a pool of people who super do not agree with you, and that's a good thing, right? Because
Right.
those people were probably never gonna give you their money in the first place. But yeah, I do find the number 1 marker of all of that is my enjoyment of it, right? It's
Ooh,
not
wow.
whether or not I'm, like, making more money or not, which I think the more that you enjoy what you're
Mhm.
doing, the more you will, right? But it's like
Agree.
yeah, it's that happiness, it's like whether you're enjoying it or not, that's what's completely different about showing up authentically or not. So whether you like it,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically.
And I love that everything that you're saying all really ties together in a beautiful way with, what I always say with offers, which is just if it doesn't feel good for you, obviously don't put it out there. You have such an understanding of like the duality of it, or you hold space for the enjoyment. You hold space for also the generous going out there for your customers and thinking of them and putting them first. And it's great because I think in a space where years ago it felt like an either or, either you had to be giving only or do this, you
Yeah.
hold such a beautiful space for both, and I love that about your answer.
That's so sweet. Okay, I do wanna talk a little bit like,
Please.
briefly about the coaching industry just 'cause we came up
Yes.
and how, you talk about how you feel like it's pretty outdated, right? Like
Yes.
and especially in, like, I think the offers, one, and the
Yes.
way that people charge for it, all of this stuff. I'd love to get a couple of your thoughts about the industry. What are they getting
Yes.
wrong? And maybe how things you see are shifting towards the next year.
Yeah, and, it's so funny because immediately when you talked about the coaching industry, like, it just sparks this primal part of my brain that I'm just like, "Ah!" And I'm sure you have seen it too. The space is kind of a little gross.
Yeah.
A little bit. A lot of it.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit.
Yes.
And that isn't to say that there aren't these beautiful spaces where these really intimate, powerful, deep connecting moments aren't happening. It's just what seems to be publicly facing right now is a lot of not agreement and stuff. And I personally have received a lot of flack for my take too, and that's totally fine. If you're listening to this and you're a coach, no, my take g- should never come first over like what you believe to be true for yourself. So just know this is an
Mhm.
Ellieism. This is an Ellie opinion. Take it with a grain of salt and take it however you will. But one kind of recent thing that I was really starting to think about is this really tricky intersection that a lot of clients who are seeking coaching or done for you services, that it's like if you're choosing to hire a coach, you know you're probably not going to get help. You're gonna have to do it all yourself, and gosh, I barely have enough time as it is, which makes it hard to commit to a coach because you're choosing to give yourself a lot more busy work in a lot of cases with zero implementation support. And
Mhm.
then there's the kind of other section of agencies, which I love agencies. And I know agencies take on a lot of clientele. And I know that the good ones will always carve out space for their customers, but it might not always be included within the pricing, kind of that level of detailed support. I'm not saying all agencies, I'm saying some will just do the work and not provide any insight.
Mhm.
And I see that quite a bit. And so we're kind of at this very interesting time where it's just like, okay, well, realistically, if we're going to be on social, there's a higher demand for output. If I'm serving this many clients, I need to do all this support. It's a no win for a lot
Mhm.
of business owners. And I think I came to the realization recently that within the coaching space, I think coaches should be willing to offer implementation with their services now. I think advice is unfortunately something that is starting to become almost burdensome in a way where
Mhm.
you're getting the advice, but at what cost to you if you're not getting someone who can oversee the implementation of it and really provide that next layer. And I'll give an example. I worked with a business coach who served probably about like 3,000 clients a year, and nothing wrong with this coach, but she was like, okay, yeah, you're going to need to do 30 to 50 feed posts a day and, make sure to do this and this and this. And no one ever could complete it.
Right.
Why? At what point? So at what point is the industry just completely ineffective if through the context of what's happening,
Right.
if it's just not making sense?
Yeah. I know what I always think about, and when people ask me about hiring coaches, it's like a person that's coaching you is only capable of coaching you through their own lived
Right.
experience. They're only gonna give you the advice that either they think works or that they've tried and maybe they've had success with, or maybe they just learned
Right.
about it from someone else. Like, first of all, the idea of
Yes.
30 posts a day is literally insane, but I know that a lot of people would say it's a volume game, it's a volume game, so, like, they're just reiterating this advice,
Right.
like, who knows? But half of the time doesn't even apply to you as the person that
Right.
you are in the business that you're in. So, yeah, I always just think, like, the coach is only capable of coaching you on whatever they've experienced, right? And so it's like that may or may not
Yeah.
be relative to you.
Dude, you know it. You know it. That is such a good point. I don't want to say that that bothers me, but it does in the sense of it feels very convenient that a large part of the industry, the client takes all the risk in that interaction, which is like, I know you're going to give me advice. I'm going to do my best to implement it. I don't know if I can do it all. I'll do my best, but I really have no way of knowing if the advice that you're going to give me is even like going to be you hope. You
Yeah.
really hope. And I'm not saying that people are doing that maliciously, necessarily, but I think what needs to happen is a new wave of coaching with the implementation done. So meaning that coaches, if you're going to be applying the advice, take that next step of
Mhm.
being like, hey, I see that right now your work schedule is like this. That is why I've created some resources to make it faster.
Right.
If not, being willing to say, you know what, I'll do the first 10 for you, and
Yeah.
then you can apply it from there. Just a helping hand to people when you know you have the time to do it. So I would say that my take for 2026 is I actually am making a pretty hard stance on the coaching industry
Yeah.
for the reason of I want people who are pursuing coaching to no longer, like, I don't want the coaching industry to die with how intense everything is getting. I think we all can rise each other's ships. I think we
Mhm.
can all reach in and lean a hand. And I think too that provides more confidence for the customer because it's like, not only am I getting this advice that I know this person cares for me for, but they kind of have skin in the game a little
Yeah.
bit. Like they're kind of more with me and like alongside me, and we're kind of more of a team versus like a, a difficult power dynamic kind of thing.
I love this. I'm obsessed with this for so many reasons, and you're the first person I've heard sort of talk about coaching in this way of like adding this aspect of whether it's execution, implementation, or support that goes beyond just the conversation. And I like this. This really shifts the narrative of, when a coach says to you, well, like, you're only going to get out of this what you put into it.
Ah, dying.
Right.
No.
So, it's like but then why am I giving you $10,000? If I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do it all and, like, yes, maybe you're gonna teach me some things, maybe you're gonna help me realize something, but for the most part, I think what we need is both that
Yes.
support, like you alluded to, it's mindset, but it's not, like, just mindset, like, there's this work that
Right.
goes along with it, and then there's this, like, idea that, hey, if you can show me how to do something that is actually going
Right.
to impact me, or you're going to like set me up with some tools for, a system or an
Yes.
example of what's going to actually work instead of just like guiding me through conversation to figure it out on my own.
Right. Right.
Right.
And you bring such a good point up too, where it's just like, why the $10,000?
Hmm.
Why the high ticket? And I made a post on this, and this is where like I ruffled a few feathers. I said, why are we expecting our customer to take 100% of the risk when we aren't willing to even sit with them and be willing to say like I'm I'm proving that I'm in this with you
Hmm.
versus the client just becoming that coach's retirement plan. It's
Right.
so easy to sit there and be like, well, this is how it's always been done. So therefore, this is how I price. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable with that with the current landscape. And I'm sure people will disagree with me, and that's fine. If you're a coach listening to this, like, that might not be something that is entirely a bad idea. I mean, think about how much more confidence your clients will have in you knowing that you're right there with them the entire time. Oh,
I think that's the value that people are looking for, right? Like
yeah.
when someone's making an investment in a coach, they are hoping that that relationship is going to propel their business forward in a way that
Yeah.
wasn't possible without the coach, right?
Right.
And so it's like we get into so many of these coaching relationships where that doesn't end up happening. And then
Right.
we're naturally disappointed, right? We're disappointed in
Right.
the experience. It's why I think, see so much client turnover for people in this industry as well, is because that piece is missing, right? Of like the
Yeah.
actual, "Hey, I'm in this with you." And so much of it does often feel like, you care, but only to the extent of how much money I'm willing to give you.
Right. And then you as the coach feel like if they can't afford the highest ticket that you want, oh, am I going to show up for them as much? And so what do? You limit the support. And the support
Mhm.
level shouldn't change if the transformation requires support. Like if
Yeah.
what they're coming to you for is they want to make X amount of dollars, the amount of support that's going to be required to get them there is probably not really going to change. So why are we taking that away from people when they need more? And additionally, you'll show up differently when you as the coach have more skin in the game. I know that when I change that, I feel more fulfilled because when the customer wins, equally as pumped. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, we had a great day. But then additionally to that, it's like they can feel it in my energy. And
Mhm.
so I guess, not to turn this in a conversation of like, you need to rethink the coach you hired. If they're not doing it the way Ellie is doing it, it's more that's an example of how I was able to change my offer sheet just because I thought of something differently. And if that means anything to you as the audience member of like, hey, I didn't know I could do this. And I could totally see myself being pumped by making passive income off of the residuals of what I built with my clients,
Yeah.
then win.
Yeah.
So,
I love that that's so full circle, like, just
yeah.
bringing it all back to that idea of, like, looking at the offers differently and how that might unlock something for you in your business.
And that's what's possible for you guys in your offers too, is maybe the problems that you guys are experiencing on a client level that you wish could be different could also be made so much easier and more passive for you if there was a different way of containing that same offer and doing it a little bit differently. So for me, it meant the difference between clients actually achieving what we had talked about and them needing
Mhm.
to dip month 2 or 3 because they were just stressed.
Right.
And so my hope is that people listening to this podcast can really think about there are endless benefits to just being willing to say, maybe even if I've achieved some level of success with the pricing and the offers that I've had, and even if no matter how satisfied I am, how much better could it get if I just like took a 30,000-foot overview and said, what if I did it differently? Like that's kind of sexy. Like I'm doing it my way. Like I really am. And they're going to be thrilled for it cuz it's unexpected. So,
Yeah.
let's make some sexy offer suites, guys.
Yes, I love that so much. Honestly, like, I get excited hearing you talk about it in that way too, and just, you know, I think it's fun. Like, it should be
It is.
fun to be able to look at business in that way, and I think that's the shift, right? Is like from it
Yeah.
being survival, stress, overwhelm to sexy and fun.
Consistently in a sexy phase. And I will say it too, I've noticed the shift within myself too, even though arguably from my vantage point, I like assigned myself more work. It was fun
Right.
to be able to make every involved active element passive from there. And maybe the templates that you originally were thinking about to sell become the client support templates that make that process more passive for you. So
Mm.
I spent all of last week baking and I didn't think about anything, but my client still felt supportive. And if that isn't a win, I don't know what is.
Yes, huge
So
win, huge win. What were you
cookies
baking?
like crazy. Girl, me in another life, baking, cookies all day, every day.
Hey, you're not gonna believe this. I've literally been baking cookies.
You serious?
Yes, because I want to start
What?
selling cookies off of my
I wanna
front
do that
lawn.
too. I wanna do that too. Are you talking about the on the side of the road, like,
Yes,
stands that people are
exactly.
talking about? Yes! Wait, I need you to send me updates. Like, that is my dream. Like, dream. Oh my
100%.
gosh.
I know. I'm
Yes.
in my efforts of looking at things differently and like just kind of analyzing my life and what I want it to look like. This year is going to be I think just return to creativity is like my goal. I haven't
Ugh.
felt like a creative person in a long time. I've been a very productive, very successful like I've been a get shit done person for a long time, but it was like I haven't felt creative in a long time. So I'm going on a journey now of like reconnecting with that, and the cookies was the first step.
You are my kindred spirit in every single way. The way my heart lit up when you wait, what is your cookie? Like, what is your one cookie that you're just like,
Okay,
my
I
best?
I think that I've perfected a chocolate chip cookie. Like it's a classic. It is an
Unbeatable.
easy But my next phase of it is to go into like the sourdough chocolate chip cookie. I haven't done that yet. But I've got like the classic down. So now I want to go into the next phase.
That's X Games mode.
Yeah.
That is a territory that I've been too shy to go in. So I'm already just like blown away. Okay, here, let me give you. This is for free, y'all. This is my closely guarded cookie secret. Chocolate chip recipe, a third of a cup of cocoa powder, marshmallows, pistachio extract. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.
You're gonna die.
I
You all
cannot
are not ready.
I cannot
It's
wait to
insane.
try that. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing, and I would have legitimately never thought of the pistachio. That's sweet.
That's where that's how you can tell when we're in creative flow, when we're not even just making chocolate chip cookies. We're like riffing with like you pulling out the sourdough out of your pocket. Like,
Listen,
girl,
and this
yes.
I think, like, and this aspect of this conversation might seem random. I actually think that this could be literally an analogy. This cookies as an
Yes,
analogy, but it's like
it
for
is.
I think being willing to continue to reiterate, reinvent yourself, look at yourself and your offers differently to
Yeah.
get to this place where you get to think about baking cookies and like having fun in your life because you're
Yes.
not bogged down by the business anymore because you have seen it differently and you've recreated it and you're doing passive income and things are feeling good.
Yeah.
So you can just bake some fucking cookies.
Could not be worded better if we tried. Of course, the distinction of creative cookie baking versus stress baking, because your girl's been there in that rabbit hole as well. So you'll know when you're creative. Anyone out there who also bakes for fun, holler at us with your recipe. Oh, that
Ellie,
just
this
made me so happy.
conversation has been so great. I mean, I feel like we've gone to so many places and touched on so many things, but all still centered around an overarching theme. And
Yes.
I'm really excited for people to hear it and to think about doing things differently and to just engage with themselves and their businesses differently as a result of listening to this. And I know I feel that way and like invigorated to keep doing that after talking. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, the way I like to wrap up every episode is
Yeah.
around this notion of permission slips. And I think that a lot of people who listen to this show, they are listening for the thing that you've shared today that just like feels like permission for them. And so the first aspect of it is if you were going to give yourself a permission slip right now, what would you want it to say?
If I were to give myself a permission slip, I would say I would give myself permission to be bold where I might normally show hesitation. So I give myself permission to be bold and just like sit in that place confidently and hoping that it resonates with people.
I love that. I love that so much. And I can't wait to watch you keep doing that. And if you were gonna give a permission slip to the people who are listening, or maybe
Mhm.
it's one person who's tuned in today and there's just something
Yes.
they really need to hear from you, what would that be?
I would give you complete and utter permission right now at this time to consider the challenge of taking all of your current active income and by this time next year, making that same amount of income passive. I know there's an active element in business that exists, but you are one offer suite change away from being able to unlock that completely passively. So that's what I'd like everyone to do.
I can't wait to take on the challenge for myself. And for everyone listening, please connect with Ellie. You have to follow her. I'm obsessed with your content. I love everything that you put out there, and you will love following, especially your hot takes and branding. I can't get
Thank
enough. I love
you.
it. So you got to follow Ellie, connect with her,
Oh.
get into her world. And again, thank you so much for being here.
The Chill Space Podcast.